if there's one thing that's littered all over the internet, then that has to be nostalgia. I mean, it's all over the place. It's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything, bro. It's even on Facebook. Even the old heads are posting nostalgic content nowadays, talking about, the weird primitive world that they were living in, the sticks and stone age, back in the 80s, right? And lately I've been thinking a lot about nostalgia, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today because I've been experiencing a lot of it myself. You guys know on this channel I rip a lot of old COD for the gameplay of these videos, and that's just a huge, huge piece of my life, right? A huge piece of my childhood that brings on just so many feelings and so much nostalgia. And whoever you are, whatever you do, wherever you are, you know what I mean? Everybody from different walks of life, there's something in this world that causes some sort of nostalgic feeling for you and reminds you of great times in your past, right? But I feel like once that initial dopamine rush hits you and it starts to fizzle out a little bit, that's when a depression starts to kick in, some sadness, right? You think about when you were a kid and you would rip some COD with your brother or rip some Halo, or you would go out and go to the skate park with your buddies or something. And, then it just kind of makes you a little sad because you're like, damn, now I'm grown. I have a 9 to 5. I have to pay bills. Like, that sucks. And I kind of wanted to talk about like my own experience with this because I think this was something that did more harm than good in my life. And I kind of want to just spread the word a little bit. I feel like this is something that might be able to help people because I want to say for like the past 2 years of my life, I've really just genuinely been living in like this state of nostalgia where I just was not advancing at all. And, I would play a lot of these old games or watch these old shows or movies, and I was trying to recreate the good times, right? I'm 20 years old. For context, I'm 20, and I just, 2 years ago I was 18, so I got thrown out into the world about 2 years ago, and that scared the shit out of me, bro. Like I'm still scared. I still don't even know what I'm doing half the time, bro. I'm literally just trying to figure it out, and to escape, the growing anxiety and the growing responsibilities in my life, I feel like I used a lot of old things to trigger those good memories to give me that dopamine max rush, bro. Like that rush of dopamine and to just make my mind feel more at ease while, I wasn't doing anything in the present moment or worrying about my future. Because, bro, I was scared shitless of the future. I really still am, bro. Like, let's be honest. Most of us are afraid, bro. We're afraid of getting older. We're afraid of taking on more responsibilities, whether it be a job, school, having kids, getting married, having a house. Everybody wants to be successful, and everybody wants to have that easy, amazing Jake Paul YouTuber life where they're just rich as shit and can do whatever they want all day. Trust me, bro. That's where I'm at too. But I feel like for me, that was like probably the biggest thing that probably fucked my life over for the past couple of years was literally just nostalgia. Because it's everywhere, bro. It's everywhere. And like I know you guys probably remember that there was this trend going on where it was like older brother core or whatever where it would show pictures of kids wearing like band t-shirts, playing an Xbox 360, eating Doritos, chugging down some Mountain Dew, ripping some old COD on an old fucking shitty box TV. Because that was pretty much most of us, right? Right? You know what I mean? For most of us, if you had brothers and that was like, and even some people who didn't have brothers. Either way, that was a very big like kind of culture moment when we were children. And so people were talking about like older brother core, right? And like, that was something that even got me, right? Because I was thinking about when I was a younger kid and like my older brother, so like he just seems so fucking cool to me, bro. He still is, bro. He's cool as shit. But like, he was just like an idol to me. And so like, I remember he was literally part of that group. And so like, I really related to that and they would get me on that. But then I would just find myself being sad, bro. I'd be like, where did the days go? Where did the good times go? Like now, he's moved out and everything and he's got his girlfriend and shit. They got their own crib and I've moved out of my mom's house. I got my girlfriend. We got our crib. Like, life is different now. And that's hard to deal with sometimes, right? Because you think about it and those were just simpler times where things were so much better and now it's just completely gone off the rails. And my life just felt so stagnant, right? It felt like it was just stuck in one place. And so I was escaping this, bro. I was trying to escape in my mind having to deal with the pains of becoming an adult, right? Because nobody wants to do that. I mean, it's hard, bro. It's really hard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people express to you enough as a kid. You know what I mean? They just tell you that it sucks. They just tell you that it's hard, but nobody actually explains anything. And you just kind of have to figure it out for yourself, which, I'm just going to tell you now, if you're watching this and you're, anywhere from like 15 to 18 and you're on your way there or you just got there, it's going to be all right, bro. You're going to figure it out. There's going to be hard parts, there's going to be scary parts, and there's going to be a lot. And I mean, let me put an emphasis on this. There's going to be a lot of shit that you're not going to want to deal with because let me tell you, bro, story of my life. But anyways, like it kind of I feel like and this doesn't just go for my situation. I just, I went through this, so I've kind of analyzed it a bit and I've realized this is probably the same for most people that, it caused this sort of stagnant feeling in your life when you get nostalgic over things, and it keeps you from moving forward because you're always stuck in the past and you're just never content with what's going on or what's to come because there's this like glorified golden age in your mind. Like, let's just say, okay, for me, it was from the time I was probably like, I don't know, like anywhere from like 8 to 16, right? Those were the good old days, right? We were just kids doing whatever the fuck we wanted, playing Halo, just fucking around, just ding dong ditching people, fighting, whatever. Like, there's a million badass little things I was doing as a badass little kid. But, you know, the truth is that that time is kind of your brain is completely just like mixing up the facts. And the reason I say this is because when you think about those things, those are the great times. Those are the amazing times from when you were a kid. And so you're not really thinking about it. You're not really thinking about everything that was going on at that time. You're only thinking about specific moments. Your brain is fizzling out all the bad memories. But I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. When I was a kid, and I don't get too personal on the channel, but when I was a kid, there was a lot of fucked up things that happened to me, bro. There's some really fucked up things that went on in my life, things that I probably should have never experienced, and I hope that other people don't have to, you know. And then, when you start thinking about it that way, you're like, man, my childhood was low key kind of fucking mid, bro. Like, yeah, there's these great things and these great moments, but in reality, it really wasn't that amazing. It's just your brain, you're under higher stress now, and you've had to deal with so much more shit since then, and you've lost, a lot of those good times that your brain is telling you that it is so much better and that now is just worse, all because you just have this constant anxiety about what's going on or what's to come. And this is just like far from the truth of your brain just telling you that that was the best time of your life and there'll be nothing better, right? And the reason I say that is because, let's just say for shits and giggles, you're my age. Let's just say you're 20 years old. For me, my golden age in my life that my brain loves to glorify is from when I was like 8 to like 16, right? But I've only lived 20 years. And if you're lucky, some people aren't lucky. People get ran over by buses or fall off cliffs or jump off cliffs or, get AIDS or just some random shit. They might just like, I don't know, like just drop dead. Like, let's just hope. And let's just, hypothetically, we'll just say that that doesn't happen to you. All right. Hopefully that happens to none of us. But, more than likely, you're going to live another 20. And then you're going to look back when you're 40 and be like, oh, when I was 20, that was the best time of my life. And then after that, you're going to go to 60 and you'll be like, oh, when I was 40, that was the best time of my life. And if you're one of the lucky few and you make it to 80, then you're going to look back at 60 and be like, that was the best time of my life. It's just a repeating cycle because for some reason, our brains just, when we're under the stress of what's happening in the present, we think back to when we had times where things were a lot lighter in terms of, high stress or anxiety. And we glorify only the good moments from those time periods. And our brain only wants to associate, those time periods with those good memories. When in all reality, there was stress there the whole way. It's just more about how you look at it. And I think through my whole analyzation of, my consumption of nostalgia, I've learned that that was a big thing for me. That was like the biggest lesson I learned, is that it is what you make of it, right? If you are pushing off the hard things going on in your life to relive moments that you'll never actually live in again or experience, you're just in denial. And that's destructive, because that'll keep you from, feeling the motivation or happiness towards anything going on or what's to come. And essentially, you're just gonna go out sad, bro. If you live that way your entire life, like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it, bro. You guys know me at this point. I hope some of you do, some of you don't, but I don't sugarcoat things. Like, I'll keep it a bean, bro. If you live that way, you're gonna die a sad old man. And that sounds harsh. That sounds harsh for me to say, but that's the truth. Because there's a lot of people like that out there. There's a lot of people who are dying every day living like that. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you believe in an afterlife or not, but I don't. And I'm open about that. Like, I believe that this is it. And so the impact that I make here might be the only thing that I ever do. And if it's going to be that, then I'm going to make sure I had the best time doing it. I'm going to make sure that, every moment was accounted for. And I'm not going to sit here and live off of old memories that I'll never even experience again. Because, instead, you can keep making good ones. You can make another golden age. Right now, for me, after really addressing this issue and just moving on with my life, and I quit worrying about it, and now I feel like I'm building another golden age in my life. I got my girlfriend. I'm living on my own now. I got all new friends, new job. Like, I'm experiencing a whole different you know side of life, and I'm gonna look back. I know I will, and I'm gonna look back when I'm 40 and be like, man, those were just great times. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're 20. You have your college experience people, or people who are just banging chicks all the time, or you're just doing all these great things, and exploring the world. And I feel like when you get caught up in some dumbass little memories from when you were 10 years old, that's gonna keep you from wanting to even go out there and experience these new things and create more great memories. And it's going to keep you stuck, and you're never going to want to advance. I also think that it's worth noting that when you're overindulging in nostalgia, you're kind of romanticizing this standard, this like perfect standard, where you think that there'll never be any time like there was, and whatever you're living now or whatever's to come could just never amount to what it was. And unless it's that, then it can't be good, right? But that's just so far from the truth. And I could say, for me personally, I was in that boat too. I found myself in that boat where I was just like, nothing will ever amount to what it was. And my life now just fucking sucks. And I started having to kind of go out there and meet new people, experience new things, do new things. And, you know, even though it takes you out of your comfort zone, I started to realize one thing, that that golden age, another one is on the rise. Another one is happening again, because I allowed myself to go out there and have these new first experiences. And that's kind of what it comes down to, is all those good memories and all those things from that quote unquote golden age in your life. You had to have experienced all those for the first time, at least, at some point. And, if you don't experience new things for the first time, then those old things that you experienced will always just be held high on this pedestal in your brain. But if you go out there and you really just, experience more life, there's so much more life to experience, then those things, yeah, they still have good, attributes to them, but they feel a little more minuscule compared to what they were to you at some point, because now there's better things. You might think that that was the best time of your life, but truthfully, you haven't even lived all your life yet, so how are you to say? You might find yourself maybe a week from now or 2 years from now, just in a whole different spot, but you're living this great amazing part of your life, and you're going to look back when you're 40, 60, 80 and be like, wow, that was amazing. And at the time, I didn't appreciate it enough because I was still worried about what was happening before that. And I guess that's just really my whole point here. That's really most of what I wanted to say, is that nostalgia is just dangerous, bro. And it's, there are good parts of it, and it's fun every now and again to sit down and crack out an old movie or rip an old game that you used to play or eat, some old candy that you ate when you were a kid. Like, of course, there's, great pieces of it, but you have to learn the balance. Otherwise, everything I've pretty much said is gonna fuck you over, and you'll never be able to move past it and create, a happy life. Because when you create new experiences every day, there's always something new, and there's always something exciting and refreshing, and that's what it comes down to. And you'll look back and be like, wow, all these first experiences I had, like, those were amazing. And there was different things I was doing at different times, and those were amazing for their time. I think there's something beautiful about letting things rest from where they came from. You know what I mean? Like, the things we did as kids, there's something beautiful about the fact that I don't do it anymore. There's something, yeah, I rip the old cods, but there's something beautiful about how that's just exclusive to that era. And I think that's amazing. I think it's amazing that there's different things in our lives that have exclusivity to certain periods, and I honestly think that makes you appreciate them a lot more too, and it also kind of makes the things you're doing now more important. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to say for today. Um, I guess it was a little shorter than usual, but short and sweet. I just say what I want to say, and then I shake out as usual. I did want to end saying that I appreciate a lot of you. I've been seeing a lot of your comments, and we got a couple of haters, but that's natural. I don't know. Y'all are probably unhappy with life. I don't know what you're going through. I'm sorry if your dad beats your mom or some shit, but I do appreciate you guys. Everybody who's been subbing, liking, commenting. Like, I go through them, I read them, even the ones that I might not like. But I'm not gonna be a little bitch about it. I'm not gonna give you the time of day or the clout by responding or putting them in my videos, because I could care less. It's my channel, suck my dick. But yeah, I just wanted to. I don't know if I say it enough, but I do appreciate everybody's support, and I'm eternally grateful. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.